You have grown up in Bharat.
I have grown up in Bharat that you didn't even know existed. Since you said, how did I become intelligent? I failed in 3rd grade, topped in 5th grade, I failed in 7th grade, failed in 8th grade, failed in 9th grade. So I said, Bhavish, मेरे को करना है, but मैं कैसे करूँ?
This is the founder of Matrix and the founder of Ola sitting with their heads against the wall.
Yeah,
wow.
Against the pillars, like क्या करना है? So I said,
what are the checks and balances you think they should be looking at really before they go on this capital raising journey?
so 2-3 points, and in no particular order. You may become a cost leader, but it will be by disrupting the business model of that industry, and I'll explain.
Hi everybody, welcome to Taking Charge with Salil Chaturvedi as we continue our series on creating worth and creating wealth. And I'm very excited to bring to you one of the speakers whom I'm myself inspired by, and it's a really amazing journey, a first generation journey that starts. We have Avnish Bajaj with us. He's an IIT, he's a master's in computer science from the US. He's done a Harvard Business School, worked with McKinsey, Apple, Goldman Sachs, started his own enterprise, successfully exited internet enterprise, which very few people can, boast of, transitioned into becoming an investor today that manages more than $4 billion worth of different companies, which he has invested in, some of which are Ola, Ola Electric, Razorpay, M-Swipe, Off Business, Country Delight, the list goes on. Extremely excited, Avnish, to have you. In our course of wanting to inspire and help people in their journey on creating more entrepreneurs and creating more value, we would love if you would share part of your journey with us. So why don't I hand over back to you, and why don't we start with a bit of your early years, your formative years, because even the era and the decade in which you chose computer engineering, I don't think even Rajiv Gandhi had announced computers in India. So what made you select that? So can you throw a little light on your early journey?
Thank you, Salil. Thank you for having me here. I love the taking charge, the worth and the wealth as a theme, and the fact that you're trying to inspire future entrepreneurs, business builders, who knows, philanthropists, a lot of different people. So very excited to be here. Coming back to early journey, very, I would say middle class, maybe slightly upper middle class. Father is IIT. So in those days, he had done IIT BHU. Now it is an IIT. He's actually a distinguished alum. I became a distinguished alum as a result. So I would say, starting out, father was in mining services. You would have heard of all the people who grew up in services background, armed forces. Ours was very similar. In fact, most of the postings and where we used to be where there was army cantonment, and so Jabalpur, various places, but closer to mining. So I have grown up.
You have grown up in Bharat.
I have grown up in Bharat that you didn't even know existed.
Wow.
Actually, you might know, but people, Jhumri Talaiya, Swang, Shahdol, Asansol, everywhere. And I think it has really shaped me, because you cannot put me in a situation, hopefully, where I will complain, because I have seen everything. I have slept with a wet sheet because power was gone in Dhanbad for 48 hours, right?
Wow.
So
Wow.
it was just, but it wasn't, we didn't even think. Today people will call it some form of you're dealing with adversity. For us it was life.
It was
and
life.
by the way, what do people in villages live? And I'm saying we were very privileged, by the way. We used to live in big bungalows, lots of staff, fancy cars, but Indian infrastructure at that time was what it was.
That's what it was.
I was living in small town India.
The capital of India, Delhi, used to have power cuts.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it still continues at some stage.
Exactly. So what has shaped me, I think a few things. One, that whole set of that peer set is highly educational. My father himself was an IIT graduate, right? So education was always very big part of our circles and talk, how we used to think about life. So that has definitely been one big one. And people, and in those days, I would say not necessarily a positive, but education was definitely celebrated more than anything else. So you could be a topper in sports.
Yeah.
And you could be, so since you said, how did I become intelligent? I failed in 3rd grade, I topped in 5th grade, I failed in 7th grade, failed in 8th grade, failed in 9th grade. One subject at a time, fortunately. And then it changed, and we'll come to that. So the point is, I don't think people are born intelligent. I think it's an input out. I just decided to work very hard. And so, but just coming back to that point, right? So I was very big into sports. So, but that wasn't appreciated, including by my dad. And I'll tell you one line, because I finally flunked 9th grade and he kind of gave up. And I came back to him and I said, I want the badminton tournament or something, or cricket or something, because I used to do these and slow cycling and all that. And he said, ठीक है, तेरे को मैं गुरुद्वारे के बाहर छोले भटूरे का stand लगा दूंगा, because that's going to be your career the way you are
That
headed.
seems to be where you're headed.
That's where you are headed. However, what happened was, and we were the other thing very positive about this culture, like you see with army, is it's very integrated. Boys and girls are very integrated. You have a lot of fun. You have, dramas, dances, events, all of that. So you grow up in a very adjusted way in some ways, right? And I was by then, I think, almost a teenager. And there were, maybe some people, some female attention that I was also looking for, but I wasn't getting. And then this guy, who is an inspiration for me, he got into IIT. And he became a celebrity in that whole officers colony. Everything was this guy. So I'm like, wow, acha. तो अगर attention चाहिए तो लगता है कुछ topper wopper बनना
IIT
पड़ेगा.
बनना है.
So there was the father's nudge, and then there was this that okay, this is how you get attention. And I was seeing that not just with this guy, but a few others who were doing well. So I said, okay, I also want this attention, and one trigger was that. Second trigger, which is a bit deeper, is that there is rampant corruption in these minings and mines and whatever happens, right? And one of the big influences in my life, and again, my dad is a big influence. My mom is also on the, I would say, on the emotional and EQ side, but on the intellect and life principle side, it's always been dad. And I could see that. So you had at one point in our pre-chat mentioned how in those early days computers hadn't come. Well, TVs hadn't come. In Asiad in 1984 is the first time India allowed color televisions. We didn't have a TV. I used to have to go to somebody else's house. It's not like we were poor, but it was just...
Yeah, it was normal in the time.
It was just normal, right? To go to somebody else's house. And I asked my dad, I said, why is it that people around you have better cars? And we had a car from 1962, by the way. But I said, but they upgrade, they do all of this. And they get fancy stuff, and you don't. And he would not tell me that some of them are corrupt. He would not tell me. And all he would say is, you have to cut your coat according to the cloth you have, you have to go to sleep at night. So this was a little bit of a programming in the back. And then there was an incident, which one of the celebrated ministers of the government, I came home from school and I suddenly saw that person and I realized he was a celebrated minister, and there was a suitcase full of cash being offered to my dad to essentially rig the exam. He was the chief examiner.
God.
And essentially allow a bunch of people in, and he just said no. And he actually said, get out of my house, to a minister. And the minister turned back and says, I'll show you, right, whatever. That incident really shaped me. And I still remember it, my hair stands up, because the risk he took.
Gives me goosebumps right now.
The risk he took, and by the way, we are Sikhs.
Yeah.
And being in a small town, and you know how some of that stuff went, including the riots and all that, right? So integrity, when people tell me one of our values is integrity, I'm like, but ये तो hygiene है. How can you not have integrity as a value?
For you, right? It's a taken, it's a table stake.
Yeah, it's a table stake. So I think that really shaped me. Then, but watching all these people, rich people around me, it created hunger. कि मेरे को पैसे बनाने. Right. And so that became, okay, पैसे कैसे बनाने, पहले IIT जाओ, फिर अमेरिका जाओ, फिर ये करो, फिर वो. So then, if you look at the life story after that,
right,
I followed that.
You followed that trajectory.
Yeah.
And computer science as a vocation for any reason in that early age?
Computer science, actually, interestingly, Rajiv Gandhi was an inspiration, because remember, I went, computer science didn't even used to exist.
Exactly.
And didn't used to be a subject. But so then for my high school, I went to DPS Mathura Road, which was one of the better schools at the time, and still is. They were offering computer science. And I still remember, this is after Rajiv Gandhi was in power, 86, 87, and he was really pushing computers. And so that's what and I was horrible at drawing. I'd failed it thrice. So either I could be in technical drawing or I could be in computer science.
So you figured out which side of your brain is working
India
better.
In 11th, 12th.
Right.
I did computer science, which was unheard of at that time.
Yes,
So there were
absolutely.
like 30, 40 people at DPS. So that's how I got into it.
Yeah,
फिर उसके
fantastic.
बाद तो natural हो गया ना, because then you go to IIT, if you get a good rank, you end up wanting to take computer science because that's your easiest path to the US with a scholarship. I couldn't afford to go on my own. So it was all going to be scholarship based.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, but this is a beautiful trajectory to take. It's not an easy path, but I think there's a big message in here that doesn't matter if you're in Bharat sitting in the remotest corner, and doesn't matter where you come from, and doesn't matter if you're on time. You might have missed the party, and you could have, had bad grades in your 5th and 7th. Whenever you wake up, it's good enough to go.
Yeah.
And you can completely turn your life around from the day you decide. So that's a beautiful inspiration.
And also my view, and Salil, I went a little bit deeper into this during COVID. We were all sitting at home, right? All of us. I really went back. So Sam Altman, we were speaking about earlier, the OpenAI founder, he used to run YC, Y Combinator. So way back when I was figuring out my investing methodology, I read, he's a very thoughtful guy. He and the Y
Paul
Combinator,
Graham, of course.
They're all very thoughtful. So he had written somewhere something which really crystallized for me, which was the first 18 years of your life defines more what you are doing today than the last 7 years. And so even when I evaluate founders, that's what I do. I spend, and it has really worked for me. Now, I may have compounded from there and things may have, but that really defined the hunger, the hustle, the desire, all of that. So to your point, I could argue that Bharat is better than India to get some of these things going.
Wow.
Because you are learning to deal with, I worry about, and I think we worry about with our children, that are they growing up in a bubble, right?
Wow. So, strangely, I was at this keynote by Neeta Ambani ji, and one sentence just got to me where she said that, you are going to have adversity. It's your choice to either come out bitter or better from it.
Very
it
good,
was profound, as a statement. And what you're saying is kind of endorsing that that the Bharat people have an edge. You're looking at it as an edge. That they have the advantage because that adversity is shaping them better. That's beautiful.
So since we are on this theme, I know you were going to bring it up later. So hum log internally we have, and it will sound judgmental, but that's our business. We have to judge and evaluate.
I actually have no issues with judgment. I personally believe life is a game of decision making, which is an outcome of judgment.
It is a judgment.
So this whole woke society concept of being against judgment is futile on me.
So हमारे founders को बड़ी जल्दी, and actually I'm saying it in front of them. Even when I'm interviewing people, I very quickly, you will see, we say they are either PhDs, MHDs, Reds or Rels. PhD, poor, hungry, driven.
Poor, hungry and driven PhD. Oh, wow.
In their background, MHD, middle, hungry, driven. Red and Rel is very interesting. Rich, exposed, driven. And by the way, I've been counseling meaning advising some of our friends' kids. I am very impressed with such children of privilege still, and they have the best exposure. And so if you are like that, by the way, Mark Zuckerberg grew up in very wealthy background. Bill Gates grew up in very wealthy background, and look at what they have created, right? And then there is a final one that we try to avoid: rich, entitled, lazy. So that's what we are trying to make sure our
That's
kids
the one we have to stay far away from.
That's
excellent. So I would love to know that, once you selected this as your career and you had a great trajectory growing. You have ticked all the boxes. You hit the IIT, you've done your master's in the US, you've done your MBA from Harvard, and then you have got it going with Goldman Sachs and Apple. I mean, these are the best companies in the world. Even today, they have stayed true to that story. And I believe yours was a turbulent time at Apple. You were not at the best time Apple had.
Worst possible,
So you saw like 3 CEOs change. I don't think Apple has seen 3 CEOs change in a while now, not in decades. What triggered you to, from there, suddenly jump and say, no, I'm going to throw it all up and start a business?
I would love for it to be a inspiring, patriotic story, but it's not. So the theme is the hunger, and the theme is the drive, and the theme is need to make it big fast. Okay. And the decisions were all kind of driven by that. So need to make it big fast. So graduating from Wisconsin, go to Apple Computer, which brand, by the way, I was very inspired by, even at that time.
It was
right. It was just very inspiring.
Always.
And I had read Steve Jobs' story, well, heard of it, Steve Jobs' story.
Right.
The fact that John Scully had come back. When I joined, John Scully used to be the CEO of Pepsi, he was running it. Very quickly then said, So what did that lead to? Got exposure to Bay Area and entrepreneurship.
Okay.
I then saw, okay, these entrepreneurs are the ones that are changing the world, but also making a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I said, entrepreneur banna. That's how it happened. Being in the Bay Area, I said, entrepreneur banna. Then I tried a few business ideas in those. I didn't have, now I'm a US citizen, but in those days, visas have it's only gotten worse. So I actually started an outsourcing business while working for Apple. And I was very open about it. And then Apple said, you're violating your visa terms.
Oh my
you
God.
can't do that. I'm like, oh shit. So stop that.
Okay.
But wo कीड़ा आ गया था.
Okay.
So then I said, okay, I can't do this right now. I really want to get into business. What do I need to do next? So I said, okay, let me go get a business training. That's what led to Harvard. And obviously the desire was always have to do the best, almost to an extreme if you ask me, because I felt some people joke that I was a brand collector. IIT, Harvard, McKinsey, Goldman, Apple, eBay, everything. So I said, now the view is create a brand of my own, meaning as a firm and as an institution.
Sure.
So that led to Harvard. Within Harvard, Suvir, we actually came back and we tried to, at that time, we went and met Mr. Narayan Murthy, the Mastech founder, and we said, ये US-India corridor में outsourcing business करते हैं. And then when we went and dug deeper into those businesses, we were like, ये तो visa management business है. इसमें कुछ exciting नहीं.
Yeah.
So then we said, okay, timing is not right. And I think in general for the audience, one of the things to think about is the timing has to feel right?
Yeah.
And especially I'm sure many in the audience are very young. They're all going to live to 100. When you're in your 20s, you're really measuring 25 में क्या कर रहा हूँ, 26 में क्या कर रहा हूँ. When you're 100, you're going to say, यार मैं क्या time waste कर रहा था. So you have to find, and I know in the context of investing,
Yes.
we'll come to it, but you have to find your ikigai. What is that thing that will be at the center of it? Entrepreneurship was clear to me. I was also finding that I was a very independently minded person and I would find it hard to be in large corporations, which I realized very early in Goldman Sachs. So I joined Goldman Sachs. So tech entrepreneurship in Bay Area, then tech investing and tech investment banking exposure at Goldman Sachs.
Okay.
But very quickly got chastised also. You had asked me one, which we can come to later, one adverse work experience.
Yes.
But one of the days, my bosses, like the head of the office sat me down.
Yeah.
And he said, when you're told to do something, you often tell the person that, no, this is not right, this is not, that's not your year one into it. So then I'm like, wait a minute, my opinion doesn't matter, right? And jo karna hai. So although, by the way, best experience at Goldman and learnt a lot. That's where I was part of the team that took eBay public. When I looked, and I'll point this nuance for the audience for a second because I think it's very important. Internet had taken off. What were the models in the internet? The most valuable company was Yahoo.
Right.
60, 70, 80 billion. But what was Yahoo? Essentially a newspaper on the internet. The second most celebrated company was Amazon. What was Amazon? A bookstore on the internet. When we got staff to do eBay, and I was writing their DRHP, and I was trying to give analysis of those models, I'm like, यार ये business तो बिना internet के exist ही नहीं हो सकता. ये
So
real
you were part of the team that worked on the DRHP at Goldman's.
We took eBay public.
When taking eBay
November
public. That's
99.
a beautiful way, greatest insight into the business model.
November 98 or 99. So I'm like, ये model तो very US specific, very internet specific है. Now by that time, Suvir and I were iterating through some other ideas, this, that, and we realized US market was overheated. He had come here for some work with BCG. So he called me and he said, India में कर. Of course, मैं banker वो consultant दोनों में ये नहीं check किया कि India में users हैं कि नहीं. हाँ चलो India में करते हैं. And then I said, यार India में तो use and throw culture ही नहीं है. Use and use ही culture है. So maybe second hand is bigger in India, Kabadi Bazaar, this, that, whatever, right? So that's how the whole thing came. But the desire was always, entrepreneurship was driven by get big quick, at some point get rich quick, whatever. But the idea was very solid. It was very driven by ये internet only है और ये India में भी चलेगा. The where it was weak was India didn't have a market. I will add one nuance to it. By that time, my father was had Parkinson's and it was becoming more advanced. So the sense of duty has always been there, right? Okay. And they had US green cards. They used to visit me every year. But I realized now it's going to be hard for him to travel. Yeah. So I said, boss, वो तो करना ही है. So then it all, again, timing. Correct. It all came together.
Yeah.
I had a personal responsibility.
Right.
and had a professional opportunity, and they came together, and I came back. Obviously, India was very different then versus now, but
Yeah.
been
But
fulfilling.
that's really nice that, somehow the serendipity of it exposed you to the startup ecosystem while that place was about to explode. And you got to know the fundraising side through your investment banking experience. But I think in today's world, I think many of our, people whom we want to make an impact with can even easily manage this by just following this kind of a media.
And it's a very good point, Salil, because I'll quote Steve Jobs. I think if you look at, I think he's mentioned this many times. He had taken a random class at Stanford, calligraphy.
On
class,
calligraphy.
right? And that resulted in the Mac font and so on and so forth. To your point, serendipity. I think you create your serendipity. You create. There is this logic, or there's this theory that you create your surface area. It's like saying I'm going to have a larger and larger net, safety net. Then what is falling, let's say it's blessings, you can catch.
True.
I think people should be focused on learning, creating more surface area, all of that. And somehow in my case, I had an offer to go back to McKinsey. Why didn't I go back? I said, yaar, wahan pe kya learn karunga? So the theme for me has been learning, curiosity, trying new things, फिर वो luck आ जाता है.
So permanently staying on that learning curve is a core essential. I think I'm going to segue from this right into what do you think are the skill sets needed or the experiences gathered
Yeah.
to prepare you for a life in entrepreneurship or leadership in creating big businesses, etc.
I wish there was more science to it, but I'll tell you, like we were discussing earlier about integrity, there are so many books written about grit and hustle and hunger. To me, again, those are hygiene. अगर वो नहीं है तो यार कुछ भी नहीं होने वाला. Grit, of course you need grit.
Yeah.
Because speaking of adversity, there's that. Everything you think, everything you will plan in a business, none of that will play out. It will all play, and you are a businessman, you've been a serial entrepreneur, you know that, right? तो वो grit होनी चाहिए कि but खाली grit से नहीं succeed कर सकते, right? And I have a strong view that the best entrepreneurs who scale up are very curious, very learning oriented, very outside in. They are watching what is happening in the market. You have just started a new series and a podcast because you're seeing how the country is changing, and they are highly customer obsessed, whoever is their customer. Okay. Now, if you look at Steve Jobs, it's the opposite argument. He says customer doesn't know what they want, I will show them what they want. But look at his products, right? So he has an intuitive sense. Amazon built on the back of complete customer obsession. Indian businesses have generally lagged in that. It's generally lagged in that. But I would say if you take a really terrible industry like airlines, the company that was doing very well for a period of time was customer obsessed, Indigo.
Yes,
right? I have to be on
absolutely.
time, I have to do this, I have to do that, right? But ek hamara bhi, because Vinita has told me I have to plug Matrix Moments. I think
You must, yeah.
So there is a episode on Matrix Moments called Founder Market Fit.
Okay.
I think it's an important episode that people should listen to. It basically tells you, people talk about product market fit. I will build a product and whether it will have a market. First you have to think about, as a founder, do you have a fit with that market?
Sure.
I didn't have founder market fit in outsourcing services.
Right.
I have a founder market fit in consumer businesses.
Right.
In fact, if you look at the history of Matrix, for better or for worse, because some of our peers did better job initially in investing in cross-border businesses, we said, yaar, usme excitement nahi hai.
Right.
So therefore, we have some of the better known consumer brands.
Right.
So I think figuring out founder market fit, being hyper curious, being outside in, being customer obsessed, these are some of the ingredients. But often in these kind of things, there are a few ingredients, but there's no recipe.
Understood.
Recipe is how it all just comes together, right?
So, but I think I would sum it up as, which is a beautiful insight that you've drawn upon, is first discover yourself.
Correct.
Till you've not found yourself,
Yeah.
and you don't know what you want,
Yeah.
it's very rarely you will build the skill sets needed around that
Yeah.
to really build into who you might be,
तो
or
उससे
the
फिर
best
एक-
version of yourself.
So फिर उससे ikigai की बात करते हैं, and for the people who
Sure.
may not know about it or read about it, when I sold Bazi and I was thinking about my next life, I came up with, and it's also on Matrix Moments, a framework called passion, opportunity and skill set. किस चीज़ में मेरे को passion है, कहाँ पे money making opportunity और कहाँ पे मेरा skill set है. Then I didn't know this ikigai at that time. I read it maybe 2-3 years later, and I think it's a beautiful framework, right? It says, what do you love? What does the world need? What can you make money at? What are you good at? I do think वो figure out. That is founder market fit. Now, in a business context, at the intersection of that, if you are, then you are making money, happy, making an impact, all of that, right? I think that you have to figure that out.
Because once you figure that out, as Naval Ravikant puts it, what seems like play to you but work to others.
So,
And if you are playing all the while, who can compete against someone who's playing while they are working? So it's a beautiful way for you.
I had an entrepreneur in the office, successful entrepreneur, has sold, and I've been observing that in his Twitter and this and that, what he does. Let's say he's organizing events, this, that, whatever. Whereas he's got a day job as in whatever sector, right? So I asked him, next क्या करना है? And to Naval's point, right? So he said, next, अभी तो ये opportunity है, मेरे को ये करना है. So I said, but वो जो आप hobby की तरह कर रहे हो, उसको क्यों नहीं scale करते हो? So he's like, but I should be doing this. I said, no. And that is to your point that, and I believe what I am privileged to do now is, then it becomes life's work.
Yeah.
If what you are doing is your life's work, then it is not work, then it's life.
Beautiful.
Right? So
That's beautiful. That's very profound, Avnish.
Right,
Thanks for sharing that. It's so beautiful the way you've just summed it together over there. And I'm sure everybody can get so much insight from this. So I think your personal journey is a very important journey to discover and then stay curious and build around that.
Yeah,
So that's a beautiful put. So in the case of many founders, it's the rare chance to meet someone like you for them who has as an entrepreneur, taken the risk, jumped across, created value and raised capital at that time. And today as an investor who deploys capital. Now, I think anybody who enters in the business, line of business or wants to grow his company even as a leader, not as an owner, I think a capital resource allocation is very important. So as I've personally seen, vision, capital allocation, resource allocation and resourcing also, and execution. These are the 4 things a leader brings. Now, within that, the capital allocation and raising becomes a big challenge and many people have a kind of a dark spot there. Could you throw some light on your experience when you raised capital, when you didn't know enough, you were not the Avnish of today. And after all this experience now, how do you think people should look at that aspect? Because I find a lot of startups are thinking about raising capital even before they've started the business.
Yeah.
And what are the checks and balances you think they should be looking at really before they go on this capital raising journey?
So 2-3 points, and in no particular order. You said part of the job of a founder is XYZ, part of which was resourcing. See, ultimately there is this Adam Smith's 3 or 4
nations.
हाँ, तो उसमें resources क्या है? Land, labor, capital and all that, right? Labor क्या होता है? In our businesses, what kind of talent have you attracted? Land equivalent क्या है? What was land? It's a scarce resource. Do you have technology? Do you have IP? Do you have a right to play and a right to win? So the way B, I would say, you said some
Could
people
you please unpack right to play and right to win? That's
so I'll come
really
back to
beautiful.
that.
Yeah.
So I'll come to that. In terms of founders stumbling over this, founders have to absolutely always be selling. And if they don't have that skill set, then they should not be a founder until they have that skill set. Because you're selling to your employees, you're selling to your investors, you're selling to your customers, you're selling to the government, you're selling all the time, right? It can be learnt. I am not a natural born seller. I grew up in Dhanbad and and all that, right? वो skill set आ जाता है. Actually, in this, HBS was very helpful for me, right? It just gave me the confidence and the framework and all that. So I do think that selling skill, do not underestimate. If you don't have it, partner with somebody who has it. Okay. So it doesn't, and first of all, I think you can develop it.
Sure.
So most of the founders I back who says, I'm not a good seller, I'm not a good HR person, I'm not a good communication. So I tell them, I'm backing you because you just don't know it.
Correct.
And I'm not going to give you the patli gali.
Go out there and acquire.
Yeah, and I'm not going to give you the patli gali ki ye main nahi koi aur karega, because ultimately you have to learn it. And all of them then, everybody develops a different style. An introvert doesn't mean you cannot be a great seller. You're just a content-based seller, right? So I think everybody can sell, but there is no patli gali out of this. You have to learn how to sell if you want to be an entrepreneur. Coming to right to play, right to win. And to your point, you can't missell something that doesn't exist or something. So the thing I ask myself, and the thing even when companies think about it, is what is your right to play in this space as a founder? What is your company's right to play? First, why even you in this business? Then it comes to right to win, right? Let's take very early, because you had mentioned the company, and they are all of the ones you mentioned. I can come up with examples.
Sure.
Let's take Country Delight. Country Delight, people don't know, these guys became dairy farmers. He's a hedge fund guy who made some good money and said dairy farming में yields बहुत अच्छी आती हैं और हमको villages में रहना है. So they went and bought a dairy farm, and they were actually dairy farmers for 6 years, 5-6 years. फिर बोर हो गए, फिर कहते हैं यार इसमें तो ये लाइफ हो गए, ये तो रिटायर्ड लाइफ है, नहीं करनी है. They had a right to play. They knew their supply side inside out. They were selling the milk. They knew what the gap was. Therefore, they had a right to play. Right to play doesn't translate into right to win. Right to win is then what do you do with it? Then getting the processing plants, and a lot of it, you mentioned execution. Absolutely, a lot of that is execution, thinking about what does my customer want. The most customer obsessed founder, I think, in our team is Chakri of Country Delight and Nitin. So product is excellent. They will test it in the lab all the time. So great example there. And I can give lots of examples that, but one example there. Then I'll give you from another era, Razorpay. I remember, I built Bazi. So after having building Bazi, we used to really suffer from these payment issues. So we built something called PaisaPay. And उसमें क्या होता था, बैंक्स में क्रेडिट कार्ड्स के फेलियर रेट्स होते थे बिटवीन, बिलीव इट और नॉट, 50 to 60%. तो आई सेड ये रॉकेट साइंस नहीं है, मैं कंप्यूटर साइंस का हूँ, जब भी फेल होएगा मैं दूसरे बैंक को भेज दूंगा. सो वी गॉट इट अप फ्रॉम 50-60 to 65%. दिस इज 2003. 2014 we met Harshil and this, and the failure rates were still the same. And they had gone very deep. They had built a payment business in their past. They went very deep, and all their thoughts on what they would go and how would they fix this problem was their right to play, because they had done it before.
Right.
So this goes back to founder market fit. I encourage people, first pick. I'll make a statement which is not very inspiring, but it is true. 90% of startups will fail. So startups are actually destined to fail, not to succeed. How do you bend those odds?
In your favor.
In your favor. And you do that by picking areas where you have an unfair advantage. And generally areas where you have an unfair advantage, you have a network, you have been there, you have a domain. I think that's what really changes.
That's the right to play there.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And right to win is continuous execution, out execution. In pure technology businesses, I can tell you there's obviously IP, technology IP. Ultimate right to win is the customer. Does the customer love for you exist at a level which is far higher than the competition? And when people ask me, should we worry about competition? Like the best people worry about their customer and what the competition can do with that customer, not the competitor kya kar raha hai, right? So I think ultimate it's customer love. We also have a podcast on this on moats. So how are you creating moats around your business? I'll give you one more example, this Amazon, right? It doesn't seem obvious, but he started with customer love, customer obsession, great, was running out of money, saw that the biggest cost was their cloud services, started AWS because of that.
Yeah.
To actually save costs.
Yeah.
Right? Then realized shipping was an issue. So it's execution that is creating moats for him everywhere.
Correct.
Right? So Prime started with a shipping service, then added video. So he's surrounding the customer. Apple surrounds us.
Yeah.
So I think that surrounding the customer is the ultimate right to win.
So your customer obsession can lead into creating your own moats.
Yes.
In short, because you're so obsessed in pleasing him and solving his journey, automatically he has nowhere to go, because only you are providing that.
Almost other than technology IP,
Yeah.
which let's say an OpenAI had. Think about this. Even OpenAI, which launched, one of the most disruptive LLM models. अब सबके पास LLM model है. वो भी मोट नहीं है.
Yeah.
वो भी मोट नहीं है. So मोट execution से आती है. कहीं पे of course licensing से आती है. When India was launching all these mobile phone networks, for that you need capital or natural resources. But otherwise moats have to come from execution, and they are not permanent. They change.
But there's also sometimes this question about, being customer obsessed and focused. But the customer ideally at some point will say, give me everything and more, and ideally free.
Yeah.
So where do you draw that line between growth, profit, how much to give away, how much to hold back? Because there are some companies going just
Yeah.
surging behind market share.
Yeah.
And you have your famous, once you've told me about offline, we've spoken
Yeah.
about the contribution margin 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, yeah.
And how you all use that to, kind of see what real unit economics
Yeah,
exist.
yeah, yeah.
I would love if you could share a little bit on that.
Yeah.
And how does one, as a founder, decide how far can he go for that obsession? How much does he hold back based on his cash flows or his runway or whatever?
Yeah, yeah. So I have a different point of view on this. I think if you are going to be if you try to deliver a product just basis cost, I don't want to be in that business, and I'll tell you what I mean. I think you have to figure out how to disrupt the business model of this industry. You may become a cost leader, but it will be by disrupting the business model of that industry, and I'll explain. Walmart, let's take SpaceX. What was the insight on which SpaceX is built? Musk said, I am going to convert, rockets go up and then they don't come down. Why? Simple question. Because I'm spending $200 million to build this thing that works only once. What if I can make it work every time? And because then he used that technology disruption to make it land, next thing you know, he can offer the cheapest service. And now nobody can catch up. Nobody can catch up. Everybody else who's trying to do it is struggling, right? So he's not a cost leader without disrupting. He's still making money. So to me, making money between profits and growth will come to it because it depends a little bit on the business model. But it cannot be permanent. I'll give you a local example. Bhavish, Ola Electric. Even after the subsidies go away or went away, even after the scooters are being discounted, we are making positive gross margin where everybody is losing 30, 40, 50% in the price of the scooter. Why? Because you've gone full stack. You took a big bold bet that I'm going to build something very scalable. Therefore, you got the best deals out of all your suppliers. You made everything in-house. The motor that somebody, MNC was giving us for 22,000 is being made better motor, more customized for 8,000. So, it's a price leader while making money. Mr. Ambani, Jio, went and put all the cables everywhere, put everything, variable cost नहीं है. तो वो industry को देखना पड़ता है कि can I disrupt this if it is a very price sensitive industry, and India is that kind of a market. If it's a very price sensitive industry, then by putting in a lot of fixed investment, can I make the variable cost come down to a level where I can explore my business and yet make money, which is what Jio has done, right? It will be one of the most profitable. So I do think वो थोड़ा सा industry specific है. I have a serious bias against businesses that don't have a value prop where they can make a lot of money long term, right? In the short term, it may not look like that, but obviously that's our job then as investors to understand what is the short versus long.
Yeah. So just to explain, value proposition
Yeah.
is the deep value offer that a company's product offers to the customer.
Not just cost.
Not just cost. So what is the big solution and value that this product offers?
So let's take Jio for example. What was the value prop outside of price? Highest coverage.
Highest coverage.
Highest coverage in the nation.
Extensive
What is Ola Electrics now? It may look like a premium product. It's cheaper. What is its value prop? Highest torque, highest range. So,
Right.
so
Single charge.
Single charge, right? तो वो तो करना ही है. You can't say कि मैं अगर आप प्राइस लीडर हो तो किसी के पास और पैसा है वो आके आपसे भी बड़ा प्राइस लीडर बन जाएगा. Walmart का क्या था? Outstanding. They disrupted one big piece of the model. They said all the malls are located in prime real estate, very high rentals. अमेरिका में सब ड्राइव करने के लिए तैयार हैं. गैस की कॉस्ट, पेट्रोल की कॉस्ट उतनी नहीं है. मैं सिटी के बाहर लगा दूंगा. इतनी अच्छी सोर्सिंग करूंगा and everybody will drive there. And I will make massive parking lots. Think about it.
The rest is history. The rest is history. It's unbelievable.
So I think that's the key. आप अगर प्राइस लीडर बनना important है, in fact बहुत बड़ी मोट है. If you can become while making money,
Right.
it's a huge moat, which is why these companies are where they are.
So the insights have to be really deep.
Insights have to be really deep such that you are disrupting the business model of the industry, the existing business model of the industry, right?
That's excellent. Coming back to your journey, okay, now you're running Bazi and in the good old time you've made an exit at more than $50 million. Might not
Most of it went to the investors, but just to be clear, which is why I became an investor. I said, "वो लोग पैसे बनाते हैं."
That's good to see that humility and deep honesty, and the fact that you always spot on in terms of nobody getting a wrong picture on anything. So, but after doing that exit, there was a time where you were discovering. In fact, we used to spend some time in those days, and you were still trying to find what you were wanting to go, in which direction in life, etc. And then investing happened to you, or by default you chose it, or like what pulled you into that direction?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I still remember. So first of all, the Bazi journey was a great outcome. It was a tough journey, and it was very clear that इंटरनेट अभी इंडिया में था नहीं. सो एक तो वो हुआ, सेकंड कुछ पैसे बन गए, एंड आई रिमेंबर वॉकिंग, eBay had flown us to Lake Como for whatever, some offsite. My wife Tina, you know her, she was there. We were walking there, and I said, if I don't work ever in my life, I'll be fine. She said, no, you won't be, because I'll shoot you.
So that's a motivation.
Yeah. So I said, okay, fair enough. And she said,
that's scary.
No, but she said, you're
Avnish
too
at home all day. Oh my God.
Exactly. No, it's forget her. It's scary for me. And
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
having found life's work, it's just very different. But so then I said, क्या करना है? I have always been a little bit professorial. I've always enjoyed education. So I said, should I start an MBA institute in the country? Should I go and teach somewhere? That's when I did this passion, opportunity, skill set. उस टाइम पे क्या था, कुछ तो पैसे बन गए थे, तो एंजल इन्वेस्टिंग एक्टिवली शुरू कर दी थी. I had already invested in about 15 to 20 companies 1 year after the Bazi exit. Some of them were doing very well. In fact, I was fortunately one of the original investors in ClearTrip when it was being set up. And ClearTrip had just gone like this. And I found that the founders, I was not on the board. And Mumbai Angel se bhi ek do ki thi, but generally it was through the network. Founders used to call me for advice. So I said, अच्छा लगता है, there is something I can offer, right? So skill set.
The arrows were there.
So some skill set is happening, and I was really enjoying it. Just the fact that I could empathize with their issues as a founder, and therefore give them advice not as an investor, was excellent for me, and it was excellent for them.
Wow.
Right? So that was one. The opportunity still seemed too early, and that's where I think we went a little bit wrong also. Because ये फिर US India की opportunity, जितने भी businesses में मैंने invest किया था, a lot of them were these legal KPO. उस समय KPOs चल रहे थे, right? And I made money also in that.
Nexus used to do a lot of that.
Yeah. So why is Suvir doing a different firm and I'm doing a different firm? So that was the. So he said, मेरे को ये करना है.
Acha, he was focused on that space.
He said we want to do this cross
India
border.
for the West.
And I said, going back to the starting of Bazi, I don't get passionate about that. I like consumer. I want to do India. So then fund one was actually, so the first decision was, I'm starting to enjoy this. Second decision was, do I want to be an entrepreneur again? That decision came down to the lack of this India consumer opportunities I felt. And it was more in the cross border. And third was skill set. I was feeling the pull from these guys. I said, मेरे को passion यहाँ पे अभी दिखने लगा. But the first fund me and Rishi started was a consumer focused fund. So we made a lot of consumer investments. We made money in some of them, but we fortunately got into Daily Hunt also, Quicker also. But उसमें W है, Cloud9 है, so some did well. But the real, so that's how it all came about.
Okay.
And we said, I will do this as this I'm enjoying. That has largely played out. उस समय ये framework नहीं था, right to play, right to win. But today I apply that to everything we do also, including me personally.
Sure.
And if you put it in that framework.
In a sense, the right to play was there because you've been a founder before.
Exactly.
The deal sourcing is coming, so that right to play was there in a sense.
Actually, the right to win was a little bit because I was a founder. Right to play में मैं network नहीं था इतना.
Okay.
So the execution I had to do was then go and meet a lot of people.
Okay.
Right, and basically get into the flow.
Right.
Because once I got into the flow, I used to be able to win deals.
That's beautiful. And what a great journey it's been from then on. I mean, it's fantastic from your first fund to the second fund today and managing more than $4 billion worth of investments across. So it's, sadly, there is a lot of, they try to look at compartmentalizing investing into a different bracket as entrepreneurship. investing is a form of an entrepreneur. it is also
हमारे लिए तो पूरा ही
it's an
वही हो गया ना।
entrepreneurial business.
मेरे लिए तो
Yeah,
वही
but
पूरा था. I mean, it
by
doesn't start
itself. So you don't have to choose.
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
You have chosen to be an entrepreneur who invests.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
pretty much it. But that piece of the journey brings me to, if someone wants to choose that as a vocation and wants to think about doing investing as a career, then what kind of playbook do you suggest? I know you are totally against playbook and you think it's very individual, etc.
Yeah.
But however, could there be some tics
नहीं वो तो है.
that could be
Yeah.
followed by students or aspiring investors or people who want to be in fund management?
By the way, just coming back to this investing as entrepreneurship, I mean, I know you have met him and he travels to India. Henry Kravis was here.
Yes, yes.
He's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Steve Schwartzman is an entrepreneur. These guys have created very large financial institutions which are very much entrepreneur led,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
So it's very inspiring for me actually, these guys. So for me, this is an entrepreneurial journey. Coming to your question, same framework hai, Salil, which is kya right to play? How are you going to create? So there are, especially if you're asking for student advice to students, please recognize that there are thousands out there who have great backgrounds at the hunger, hustle, this, that, whatever, right? What is your unique edge and what is your right to play? Typically in our kind of business, now venture capital is different from private equity. If you want to do private equity, because private equity is more financial training driven, then your right to play is go get the best financial training, go excel over there and maybe go work at a bank, and then hopefully if you're topping at the bank, some PE guy is going to call you. Venture में ऐसा deterministic path नहीं है. Venture में if you look, the best path is go get operating experience. Okay, so when people ask me कि हमको VC में interest है, पर हमारा McKinsey offer है या Goldman offer है or whatever Morgan Stanley offer है, that is not the right path. Go work at a startup, learn some real skills.
Sure.
Ideally, that startup should be in a sector that you are interested in and being long term.
At what phase?
Straight out of college.
No. The startup should be at what phase for them to learn?
Very good question. I would say Series B, not even Series A. Series A में कुछ सीखोगे नहीं. It will be chaos. In fact, you can start with a Series B, Series C startup, well funded.
Right.
Some business model is working, and then maybe come back to a real startup.
Just to simplify that, I would say a Series B would be almost the
10 million
the
raise.
fifth 10 million raise,
10 million
and
raise.
it should be the fourth or fifth round of fundraise.
No,
usually.
second, third round.
It could be second or third
and
round.
second,
Okay.
third year of existence.
Okay, 3 years of
maybe
existence.
100, 200, 300.
So ideally, if
people.
you hit into a company like that, that exposure can be ideal to see you.
Boss, ये
see a company
companies
from the
में
inside.
ये companies में hire होना उतना difficult नहीं है.
Okay.
They are desperate because
Yeah, they
especially
need
they have
people.
raised money. So there you have to have that target and say इस पे जाके मेरे को recruit करना है. मैं कैसे hustle करूँ, network करूँ, ये करूँ, वो करूँ to get there.
Right.
By the way, 3 of the people we've hired in the last 4 years are failed founders.
Okay.
Actually, maybe 5 in the last 5-6 years. So there is no bad experience.
Wow.
There is only good experience, but you better take away the right things from that experience, right? And same thing about adversity that Neetaji made and all that, right? So to me, go work at these. When people say, and I often encourage people, by the way, even leaving Matrix, कि अगर मेरा business fail हो गया, I said, boss, you are more likely for me to hire you back. Then
Well, I think there's a beautiful message out there. If there are 90% people who are failing,
Yeah.
this is a big sliver of light.
Yeah,
That there is a premium on being even a failed founder.
Yeah.
You are respected by the investment community. That's
Boss,
very encouraging to hear.
You know why? Because they are also skeptical and cynical of all the things they hear. And as an investor, we have to be believers. We have to think about reward. We have to imagine the future and all of that. But we also have to be very aware of risk.
So the difference between the irrational optimist and the rational optimist.
Yes.
So that could be one piece that you work at a startup.
Yeah.
But what kind of educational skill sets, etc., could you acquire? No, nothing really.
Again, Matrix podcast, intrinsics versus extrinsics. I'll actually, you'll love this digression. So
Yeah.
I was in Africa in a safari with my children, and I was reading this book about how children survive or how children thrive, something like that. Net, they said it's all about value system and what they call character and value system, what I call intrinsics. उसमें ये सब है, grit, hunger, hustle. The job as parents is actually to teach
Instill
those
that.
values, not to send them to the best institutes, if you ask me. अगर ये values हो गए ना, वो institutes खुद figure out कर लेंगे. And I think that's what my dad and mom did for me. So I think it's the same thing for founders or people aspiring to be. Have those, don't be entitled. We had that discussion, right?
Yeah.
Put in all that effort. The minute you put the effort in the right place, वो
the
results
grind.
आ जाते हैं. ये classic भगवत गीता है या धोनी formula है या जो भी है. The process and the inputs matter. Outcomes take care of themselves. The younger the people are, the more they are focused on immediate outcomes, and that's where the problems come.
Right. And learning investing, somewhere rudimentarily it involves accounting and a bit of study, etc. So that don't you think that level of literacy is very low, and that's
Venture
something
capital
can
में उतना important नहीं है. Accounting is also, look, I think there are 2 or 3 universal subjects in life, actually which are not taught. So math is 100% universal subject. थोड़ा बहुत finance and accounting is helpful. Because you have to be able to read statements.
It's the language of business.
That's what I picked up at Goldman Sachs, right? And little bit at HBS, but more at Goldman Sachs. But I wouldn't say go to a job to learn that.
Right.
That can still be learned on the fly. But you have to have that hunger. When I was looking to start, remember I said I started a business in Apple for India and all of that. I went to a community college in Apple after, in Cupertino after work. I used to go to a community college to learn finance and accounting.
Wow.
Because I said, boss, अगर धंधा करना उसको हार्वर्ड तो बाद में आया, because जब वो धंधा नहीं कर पाए,
Correct.
right? So that desire that I have to round out my skill set came from within, and I used to go for finance and accounting and marketing. I think 3 चीजें की थी मैंने. So वो करना है, but what I meant more by the skill set is immersing yourself in a startup teaches you the overall picture.
Right.
If there is a skill set that is helpful in a startup to pick up, it's product management, especially if you're trying to do technology.
Okay.
So when I encourage people, especially even the ones who go overseas, MBA करते हैं,
Could you unpack product management for a layman? What does product management really entail or mean?
So you said finance is the language of business. Product management is what connects business to technology.
Wow.
Okay. So Ola Cabs is a business. Ola की जो technology है, I mean it's truly rocket science. I mean Uber may also have something similar. The product manager is the one who's saying business की objectives हैं और उसको हम technology से कैसे map करें.
Wow.
So there's a lot of science to
How
it.
will
actually.
technology simplify that and optimize that?
Yeah. So for example, the product manager is the guy who's remember I said earlier customer. So if you connect back to what we discussed earlier, success in my view in businesses often comes from customer obsession. Product managers are customer obsessed. Customer support team is a reactive team.
Sure.
Product management team is a proactive team. This is, Steve Jobs, when the first Apple product, the iPhone was shown to him. उस समय Samsung में stylus होता था.
Okay.
तो Steve Jobs ने उनको कहा कि जब तक ये stylus है मैं एक phone नहीं launch करने वाला हूँ. Only when you give me a product that is disruptive in the market, that has no stylus, and you can do it with the hand or whatever. That's customer obsession and product management.
No me
so
too.
He's the best product manager out there. By the way, Jeff Bezos is the best product manager out
Without doubt.
there. Elon Musk is the best product manager out
Phenomenal.
there. Right? So they are product obsessed founders, and that to me is the highest correlation with success, and therefore the best experience you can get in a startup.
No, this is a very valuable nugget. I think product management focus and people to go and get that skill set.
Yeah.
And nowadays everything democratized. So if you want it, you don't need to go to college and
Coursera
I mean, you can go on Coursera
Yeah.
or any of these sites and go and acquire that knowledge. But at least you've given us the direction.
Yeah.
Because like they say, the direction is more important than speed. Once you know your direction, then speed becomes more important. But in the beginning, it's all direction. So thank you for that direction.
Sure.
I'm sure this will really help a lot of people in formulating their life goals.
Hopefully.
And finding their paths. Yeah. So I'll come back to a little bit on your investing style. Now that you've kind of did your first fund and you went out there, so I'm sure it was full of its own struggles, etc. But I want to focus more on the side of the people who are receiving the capital and when they come to you. I mean, what are the principles on which you kind of establish that yes, this business is investable or investment ready or worthy, and you take a call on that? What are the like building blocks on which you make this?
So the good news, Salil, is we are not trying to take that call, and I would love for your camera people to show we are obsessed with founders. So the call we are trying to take is this the best founder for this space?
Wow.
Is this a founder we want to back?
Wow.
Right? Now, because there are a number of different sectors and all that, ऐसा नहीं है कि हम businesses के बारे में नहीं सोचते. So we have a method where we form a point of view for a sector.
Sure.
तो उसमें हम अपनी रिसर्च करते हैं, सेकेंडरी रिसर्च करते हैं, मार्केट में एक्सपर्ट्स से जाके बोलते हैं, कस्टमर्स को जाके विजिट करते हैं, एंड वी बेसिकली फॉर्म अ पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू.
Okay.
With that point of view, and that is also based on what are the trends in the country, what are we seeing around us, and I'll give you one specific example. And then when the founders start showing up, we start throwing our point of view at them, and we say कि response क्या है. तो ये उससे we understand whether the founder has a right to play and a right to win in this sector.
Right.
That's one piece of the evaluation. The other piece of the evaluation is who is this person. I mentioned earlier Sam Altman said first 18 years. मैं तो घुस जाता हूँ. Family background क्या है, बाकी लोग क्या करते हैं, कहाँ पे raise हुए.
Meet the person.
So really go deep into it.
Yeah.
In my case, I spend most of my time on this second piece, and I get a sense of the intrinsics. Then I'll quickly go to this right to play, right to win piece of it. So should I tell you a story?
Yes, please.
So,
Please, would love to
Ola,
know.
Ola cabs. Right?
Okay.
So we didn't know Uber existed at that time.
Right.
By the way, neither did Bhavish. When he started in 2010, and Uber started exactly 2-3 months after that. So we were, having lived in Mumbai, you know how beautiful our black and yellow experience was.
Yeah, yeah.
So Meru was happening, Sawari was happening. मतलब ये बहुत cab company, अब तो मैं भूल गया हूँ, Tab cab, ये वो.
There were a lot.
And they were all coming to raise money also. So Tarun, I don't know if you, I think you've met him, Tarun, Rajendra, me,
Yes,
we
yes.
used to work on this sector. So he said, यार boss, इस cab space में instinctively लगता है कि पैसे बनने मुश्किल है. But let's go dig deeper, because for example in New York, the taxi space makes a lot of money, the medallions in those days. So these guys went very deep in that sector. And along the way, Mr. Bhavish Agarwal of Ola shows up. And we formed a view कि कुछ नहीं होने वाला. We passed on all the companies. We said ये बहुत negative sector है और कुछ पैसे नहीं बनने वाले. And then Mr. Bhavish comes to the office, and so we tell him all this. And obviously very impressive, life story, all of that. You know how he got started? To coming to the hunger hustle. He was at the Commonwealth Games in Delhi in 2010, handing out flyers himself. It was a company called olatrips.com which was doing long distance trips because he couldn't get a taxi for a long distance trip, right? So that's how he started, really bottoms up. So when we told him, these are all the reasons why this doesn't work, he said, that's what you think today, but you're not thinking about the future. If you really want to understand what the future looks like, come to my office in Powai. And we went there, and Salil, it was like a NOC, it was like a network operations center, like a control, TVs everywhere. All the cab bookings in those days were on the phone. But everything there was saying, kahan pe green area, kahan pe red area, and they were redirecting the cabs to those areas.
Wow.
And he said, 1-2 साल में ये सब बिना phone
Which year is this?
2012.
In 12 we had all these heat maps and everything.
Heat
showing.
maps were there, but the redirection could only happen on the phone because LBS, the location based.
So they had to
stuff was
physically
not there.
tell them, "Idhar jao,
Physically,
jaldi."
आप इधर जाओ, उधर जाओ. मतलब इतना भी हर कैब का नहीं होता था. They would send a SMS to entire locality कि अब इधर demand आ रही है. Right? So he said ये future में सब change हो जाएगा. So to the point on how do we do this, there is a investor I look up to called Fred Wilson in Union Square Ventures. He uses this line: strong views, weakly held. So we had strong views on the space, but they were very weakly held. When we found a person who was smarter than us, he said, "Boss, ab yahan pe karo." And that was a very tough decision because in those days the regulations were not clear. Is this allowed? Is this not allowed? So it was one of the riskiest bets we made.
Yeah, but then you're saving yourself from confirmation bias, and you have to have a very low sense of ego.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, sometimes they form a view and they hold on to it. They just don't want to hear the contra
I
view.
think it's a deep,
I think
deep
you
topic
have
on
that
this.
beautifully.
But that's what's strong. So confirmation bias is the biggest
I
problem
feel
with
there's one
investors.
more thing I see in you, a bit of Sam Zell. I don't know if you know of the investor, and he believes in this way of being blatantly honest.
Yeah.
At the point of being,
Brutal.
rude and brutal or whatever.
Yeah,
And I think I see that in you.
I
a
don't
lot.
think the audience should pick that up because you can get away with
Maybe
it
it doesn't
after a
pay
few
well
years,
sometimes.
and it doesn't start well. but
But
yeah, I know
in
you worked
investing-
with Sam.
In
Zell.
investing, there's little room for politeness, I think, because eventually if you have to follow through with the investment, if
Yeah.
So you can't go through on that basis.
Well, yes and no, Salil. तो हम लोग का अगर आप मार्केट में चेक करो, our biggest right to win is founders love us. Now, do founders love us because we are nice to them all the time? No. I think we are very warm and very authentic, but we say what we have to say, and sometimes it's not what they want to hear. But we are nice people. So,
Yeah.
so वो
Inherently.
हाँ, inherently because हम warm और authentic हैं और हमारा उनका best interest हमारा भी best interest.
Yeah, but I would definitely credit that to you. From all my life, I mean, you're a very good friend. You're a very honest guy. You're extremely humble. And in my life, I cherish having you as one of my friends.
Thank you,
amongst
thank you. Very
the whole
kind of
lot
you.
of people that I have. And I personally believe that at least in organizations which have lesser number of people, eventually it's the founder's culture which becomes the company's culture. It's not a product culture because it's
Yeah.
not the product really.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that beauty of the kind of people and the team that's built around you is also, seems to, you're attracting the same tribe and vibe as they speak.
Thank you.
So
I want just this clip so I can keep playing it to my team when we are doing our 360-degree reviews.
Yeah, but all of them, I've been watching them on Matrix podcast
yeah.
and individually also, they stand out. in that
And
journey.
I'm not taking credit for it, but I am proud of it because I do think our culture differentiates us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Are there some, like with Ola, he changed your mind, but eventually now, someone will make a business pitch.
Yeah.
You will want a certain business plan.
yeah.
And they'll tell you, and macros are known to the whole world.
Yeah.
The research reports have it. But eventually there's a moment of truth.
Yeah.
Where you decide ki haan,
Yeah.
ye hai banda. So do you have some?
There are many, and
some,
all of them ended up being our largest investments. And interestingly,
So if you could share some of those
all
stories.
of them said you are wrong. But let's start with Bhavish. Bhavish का क्या हो रहा था? Business was not legal. $6 million का check था. मतलब business was not
It
illegal.
had regulatory hurdles.
We didn't know.
Right.
It was not regulated.
Yeah, the government ruling was silent on that.
$6 million का चेक था. तो मैंने कहा कि बॉस मेरे को तो करना है. तरुण, राजेंद्र, I, we all wanted to do it. लेकिन हमको legal opinion तो चाहिए होगा. So there was this very famous lawyer, I forget his name, in Fort. So Bhavish said मेरे को भी आना है. So I said okay. So we had sent all the briefing materials and we walked in and we said this business is illegal. It will the government will not pass any enabling laws. I will not be able to defend it in the Supreme Court. I cannot give you an opinion. And this was literally a 7-8 minute meeting and we came down.
Yeah.
And वो offices में वो बड़े-बड़े pillars हैं और एक pillar के against मैं ऐसे I have put my head and the other one Bhavesh has put his head. So then he said, then he finally said, क्या करना है? So I said, Bhavesh, मेरे को करना है, but मैं कैसे करूँ?
This is the founder of Matrix and the founder of Ola sitting with their heads against the wall.
Yeah,
Wow.
Against the pillars, and like क्या करना है? So I said, करना है, but कर ही नहीं सकता हूँ ऐसे. So he said, okay, I don't agree with you. You have to take the executive decision. You have to back me. Do you think I want to create a business with headaches? I don't. Do you see that in me? I will fix it. I will create something that will work ultimately. So we decided to invest, except 2 months later he got an FIR. So it took an even.
But that was part of the journey.
That was part of the journey. But that conviction, you said that moment of truth, it was looking in his eyes. When he just said, मैं तो कर ही दूँगा. और वो आज भी वैसे ही है. वो आज भी वैसे ही है कि मैं तो कर ही दूँगा. When he first said Ola Electric, में no mind.
But Bhavesh walks out of a meeting where the law firm has said you are not possible.
It's
you
not
are
possible.
Indefensible. Leave.
Yes.
And he tells his.
वो force of nature है ना, Elon Musk.
And he's telling his venture capital partner कि भाई
मैं कर दूँगा.
you come.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that is probably the most extreme example. The other ones are, for example, One Card, Country Delight. I'll give you both.
Yeah, please.
Country Delight. First of all, milk companies have not become very large, and he used to keep saying कि milk and related. जब हमको pitch किया था तो milk and related products था.
Right.
But बोलता था grocery basket बनानी है. So I used to keep telling. So there was a point where I said, boss ये unrelated diversification है. What is your right to play, right to win ये वो? And again sir आप गलत बोल रहे हो. Customer के साथ अगर wedge आ गई है और मैं 22 से 24 बार महीने में उनके घर पे जा रहा हूँ तो मैं सब बेचूंगा उनको. And मैं करके दिखाया उसने.
Correct.
One Card I used to keep telling him कि ये there are so many cards, HDFC, SBI, this, that. What is your right to play and right to win? And he's like, it's disrupted. Do you ever call your customer support because you will be on the phone for 20 minutes. So I think the moment is generally where we are hesitant.
Right.
And we share why we are hesitant or some version, and then by the way, it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
I just met two founders where it's the largest check for us, and we've been kind of on the fence.
Wow.
But I met them yesterday, and then my colleague Vikram called me and he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Karo boss." That looking at their conviction. See, ultimately, we are not in the business of backing our conviction. We are in the business of backing founders who have great conviction. That distinction. और जब वो मेरे को conviction उस level की दिख जाती है, almost, I don't know what the right word is, वो दिख जाता है आंखों में ना. So
that comes down to gut. आखिर में it's a moment of truth that the person.
So Salil, at the risk of being non-PC, I don't believe that this is a gut-based business. I think, in fact, you must have read this book of Daniel Kahneman on thinking fast and slow. So he said, system and thinking. Gut सबको लगता है बहुत cool है, intuition बहुत cool है. It is wrong 90% of the time. So you have to develop your system too, which gets you to much better gut and intuition. So I am saying the process, अगर हमने legal opinion नहीं force किया होता ओला में, तो मेरे को कैसे वो gut feel आती कि यार ये बंदे की आंखों में देखो वो भूख है और वो ये कर लेगा.
Right.
So we followed the process to get there.
True that.
So I think it is a very, very process-driven business. Yes,
I
the
tend to
final
agree.
decision.
Yeah.
The final decision in venture capital is very gut-driven.
True that.
But where people get it wrong is they think it's a gut business. No, it's a very process-driven business,
scientific.
very scientific business. Get to a point where your gut is informed and not making an
Beautifully put.
uninformed.
I think this is the most profound thing coming out of this episode for sure.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they have been talking about thinking from your gut, you should follow your gut. And there's so much of this, manifestation theories and all that.
लगता है ना बहुत.
But if you haven't built yourself through curiosity with the entire database, so that your gut can give you the right feeling, then you might be going.
And the reality is gut में तो thinking है नहीं.
Right.
Thinking यहाँ पे. So the scientific view that I will put there is ultimately judgment comes from neurons that are connected in certain ways. The more you inform yourself, the more curious you are, the patterns that are forming in your neurons are just better. And that's where it feels like gut, right? So
beautifully put. I think that's a fabulous insight for, forming any kind of decision-making kind of process. So I would love to know about, there's all these, you started as an early stage VC and now you've grown up and now it's a very big, all the large firms have taken the shift, Sequoia included, etc. Of course, they are exiting India, but there are others out there who are starting late stage funds alongside. And India's IPO market seems to have totally been going great guns right now. And in the coming decade, things should be better, I would think. So what is your view on that space? Are you all planning to also do that and do a late stage fund? Because there are certain ticket sizes which cannot be deployed after a certain size and scale. How are you planning to play the decade to come personally and for Matrix? What's your view on the decade to come?
It's actually a live question in my head. I'll tell you all the thoughts. So one is I see the GDP going to 10 trillion. I think we all believe that in the next 10, 12 years. Tech penetration, current GDP is about 4, tech penetration is about 5%. So it's about 200 billion. Then when you look out and you do pattern matches with what happened in China and the US, this will get to 25 to 35% even. So there is a $2.5–3 trillion tech opportunity that is coming in market cap creation. So we do think about, but I also filter the first principles of investing from someone like a Warren Buffett is your circle of competence. And one of the biggest problems in our industry, which is in any business, is strategy creep and feature creep and all of that. So the best firms go out of business because they do some of this unrelated diversity. So it's a tough balance between saying what is the opportunity set, what is my right to play, what is my right to win, can I play that opportunity set. Venture capital में, by the way, Sequoia का fund अभी भी 750 million है US में, and they are the best venture fund in the US. They have never increased the size. I am actually quite inspired by that. तो मैं जब फंड साइजिंग भी सोचता हूँ, मैं ये सोचता हूँ कि कितनी मार्केट कैप मैं क्रिएट कर सकता हूँ. तो फंड 2 we created about 23 to 25 billion. Fund 3 I think will create about 30 billion. I want to generate a certain return, my ownership, that number taps out at 700, 750.
Okay.
In the venture product, right? I don't want to screw it up. We are not, we keep telling our players we are an alpha investor, not a beta investor.
Yeah.
Alpha investor is trying to generate returns above the market. Beta investor is generating returns at the market, right?
Sure.
So in venture capital we can't do more. Our founders keep telling us कि आप लोग और क्यों नहीं करते हो क्योंकि हमारा प्रोरेटा कई बार यूज नहीं होता है whatever. So वो सोचना पड़ेगा. But you should know that I am very much of a purist in terms of the venture product.
You want to stay in this space?
No, I'm not necessarily saying that, because if you want to invest a lot of money with me, I'll take the.
Didn't start the late stage fund.
But I'm saying we will not have big funds.
Sure.
So the venture capital product will stay the way it is. Baki dekhenge.
Right.
So, but the opportunity set is interesting. The question is right to play, right to win. I set the same bar for us and for the firm that I set with the founders, which is okay if I do some, let's say public markets. Kya hai mera right to play?
No.
Kya hai right to win? Right to play, I may think I know tech better, but I don't. I mean, and I was chatting with a very, very thoughtful, wise venture investor, and I said, Dekho, I won't name the company, but you know, I knew that this stock was underpriced because I have this data. And now that stock was up 60, 70%. He said, very good, but I am the buyer of that stock. I don't think like you. So you may think that this analysis works, but it doesn't, because I'm the public market investor.
Correct.
So I think where people go wrong in this business is private market investors think they can do public markets think they can do private markets. Ultimately, wo circle of competence hota hai. So that's what is a framework I apply. Where that leads, we can see. Now, for example, pre-IPO. और unutilized pro rata, यहाँ पे opportunities हैं 100% है, वहाँ पे right to play और right to win है 100% है, because वो हमारा खुद के portfolio से compound हो रहा है.
Yeah.
Because the beauty of the investing business is also it's a compounding business.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Pre-market placement, you would be in a first mover advantage sort of a position.
especially if it's a company I know, a sector I know,
Portfolio
तो
company.
देखना पड़ेगा. Yeah.
True that.
एक इसमें एक और nuance है, which is ultimately who's my client other than the founders, it's my investors also.
Correct.
They may say, यार मैंने public market exposure लिया हुआ है, तुम क्यों कर रहे हो?
I can do that in a different pocket.
Yeah, right. And with people.
And for his sector allocation also, it makes
Correct.
it simpler for him.
Correct.
You know, this whole power law theory in venture capital is that you have to risk maximum and you will have a few winners who will pay for everything, etc. How is that view to be looked at when you do a fund in India?
Same hai.
It is exactly the same.
Same hai.
So,
But by the way, the less known fact
yeah,
is I don't think power law applies just in venture capital. I think it applies across all investing, and people don't understand it. If you look at Warren Buffett's returns,
yeah,
70 to 80% come from 6 to 7 investments. In his history,
true that.
if you look at Charlie Munger's returns,
Yeah, yeah.
70% came from one investment, Geico. So now I'll tell you where the nuance comes. Their returns may come from there. They don't lose money as often as we do. So वो people confuse it.
Yeah,
Power law on reward investing में हर जगह है. But हमारा extreme है और हमारा beta भी ज़्यादा है. Because they may make 100x, but I think so far we have made 30, 40, 50, 60, 70x in like multiple investments. But we've also lost money in 50, 60% of our
No, so what kind of dud ratio is there?
So
and is it more in B2B? Is it more in B2C or direct to consumer or what?
So risk and reward always go hand in hand, right? So loss rates and highest returns will also go hand in hand. So I'll tell you the global statistics, but generally in our business, give or take 50% loss rate. Okay. We try to be a little bit better than that. But if you're much better than that, that means you're not taking enough risk.
Correct.
Right? So, mota moti wo hai. Now, B2B versus B2C, the reward rate is B2C is also very high, but risk rate is high.
Correct.
Right? And the capital efficiency is poor. So, generally speaking, enterprise, I'll call it enterprise, not B2B, enterprise investing has generated much better returns in terms of the capital ka multiple. So, if you look at least until the bubble came 4-5 years ago, usse pehle ka dekho, which is the more through cycle view.
When you say enterprise investing, you mean B2B?
SaaS.
You mean B2B?
Where your customer is, no, but B2B In the US context and in some of our tech context, we call it enterprise because you're providing software for the
Correct.
enterprise. B2B could also be a B2B marketplace.
Okay, okay, okay.
But they all have similar investment characteristics.
Okay.
And in those days, it used to be that consumer businesses generated maybe 10 times the return on capital that they have raised.
Wow.
So valuation divided by capital raised, median or the ones that work. Enterprise was 20 to 25.
Wow.
Because generally speaking,
Because your dud ratio is lower.
Dud ratio is lower. No, this is for things that worked. Okay.
Okay.
Because your capital efficiency is higher. You're not trying to build a consumer brand.
There's not so
You're
much
more
burn.
sales. Retention is higher. So generally that's the case. India को देखो तो मेरे हिसाब से तो it's the challenge is to actually stay more disciplined because the opportunity right now is everywhere. I mean, we have invested in Ola Electric. You know, I mentioned to you, we have invested in Krutrim, which is OpenAI plus NVIDIA equivalent of India. इस टाइप की वेंचर अपॉर्चुनिटीज कहाँ किस और कंट्री में आई? चाइना में आई थी अक्रॉस सम फेज, यूएस में नहीं आई थी. विच वेंचर कैपिटलिस्ट हैव बैक्ड टेस्ला? नोबडी, राइट? ट्रू. सो इट केम मच लेटर. सो बिकॉज आवर GDP growth and our technology penetration is happening at the same time, and thanks to our soft infrastructure,
Right.
which is world class, for us as VCs, this is a very, very exciting opportunity because हम इतने businesses, इतने types के businesses में invest करते हैं जो दूसरी countries में opportunity नहीं थी.
So the other thing, Avnish, I would love if you can throw some light on people who are, possibly wanting to start up now, because things are changing so dynamic. The chip speeds, the AI, everything's coming in. So, I mean, it's very tough to talk in decades. But honestly, in today's day and age, over the next foreseeable, let's say, next 2-3 years, if someone wants to gear themselves up, or they are in a life of choosing where they want to select a career path, what do you think are the hot areas which definitely have at least multi-decadal growth left in them?
Yeah. So first of all, I think the audience should be thinking in decades. You and I are probably the older than most of them, and yet I think in multi-decades. So look, right now we had this GDP conversation. जब GDP जा रही है 3x और tech penetration in the GDP जा रही है, तो opportunity will be everywhere. If I look at our Fund 3 portfolio, these are businesses that people should be able to relate to very easily. Country Delight, it's bringing milk and groceries to your house. We have something called Captain Fresh. He's gone and changed the supply chain of basically of fisheries and prawns and all of this is a big part of the business. WeGrow, it is bringing vegetables, standardizing them, and then selling a brand like you would see Chiquita in the US. So opportunity का constraint पता है क्या है? यहाँ है.
True.
Opportunities are unlimited. So I was telling you offline that when I travel with my children and let's say we run into some problem, I actually ask them, and they are fortunately almost never complaining, but I'll say, do you think this problem is large enough? Do you think there is a 10x solve for it? ऐसे सोचना होता है. So I think the opportunities are really everywhere. You have to be aware of it and then think of right to play, right to win. I think there is in our industry, there is a phrase, and I use it as a filter also for the founders. Are you an experiential entrepreneur? Experiential entrepreneur means you have experienced this problem yourself.
Okay.
If you have experienced this problem yourself, you are your own most critical customer.
Correct.
And we have said customer obsession is the #1 driver. So to me, if you are experiencing a problem, usko solve karo na. Top down opportunity to har jagah aayegi. You will see it. You'll see it around you everywhere. You have to think about, have you experienced this problem? Do you have a right to play? Do you have a 10x solve? We had taken the Ola example and there was clearly a 10x solve. How many of us would have previous 15 years felt the black and yellow problem in the country? All of us. But so
he woke up to it.
So I think opportunities everywhere. I do think you should think about what framework I had to go through myself. Are you more driven by consumers? Are you more driven by businesses? If you look at your life story, where have you picked up disproportionate insights? And when I talk about the first 18 years of a person's life, we have invested in this guy Zupi. I think that's also here on the board. It's a gaming company.
Okay.
वो 12 साल से गेमिंग कर रहा था, 12 की एज से. तो we backed him the minute he came out of IIT. Because you can see that life. So you should, I tell my children this because, this same, I was telling you when we were reading this book, I keep telling them about Ikigai. And my son will always say, I will make money, then I will do what I love. And I will say, no, you figure out a way to make money doing what you love.
What you love.
And it is possible.
It's possible.
And I think that is hopefully actionable for people saying, what is it that, because जो extra effort, adversity, grit, ये सब entrepreneurship में चाहिए, वो naturally तब आएगी if you're waking up in the morning and doing something that you love.
Sure.
And the passion, right?
But at the same time, sometimes macros can make a massive impact of the difference between having headwinds or tailwinds.
Yes.
So, if you have your tailwinds, you could, for every stride, you're just swimming faster.
Very good
It's like Narayan Murthy picking IT in the 90s versus him picking it today, some new guy. So, in terms of macro headwinds, where do you feel is
No, so I think it's a very good framework. So, all we have spoken about in right to play, right to win is why me? This is inside out. This is founder outwards and founder market fit. The flip of that is why now? Why in the market? And I was chatting with my US partners when we had gotten started, and I said, boss, between founder and market and this and the business model, what is the highest correlation of success you have seen? And they said, market timing.
Timing. Very vital.
Timing is very critical. Okay, so the same business, so that's what we call why now. And the best founder should be thinking that. Has something changed? अगर आप 4 साल पहले इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल स्टार्ट करते वर्सेस आज गवर्नमेंट आपको PLI दे रही है, राइट? आज मैंने पढ़ा है कि फेम 3 में इलेक्ट्रिक बसेस में बहुत बड़ी PLI आ रही है, राइट? Now if I'm a founder, do I have a right to play or win in electric buses versus Ashok Leyland or Tata? Probably not. Do I have a right to play in repairs of that industry? Is repairs going to be a separate industry? Is charging network, charging technology?
Batteries.
So there is so much that can come from the macro trend. But macro trend to clear ho gaya.
Sure.
Ye push ho raha.
Sure.
So it is macro plus micro trends and then bottoms up. But yes, if you don't think of trends and you become too inside out. By the way, when I started Bazi, the timing was terrible. Idea बहुत अच्छा था, but market ही नहीं थी. 8 साल बाद start किया होता.
Way too early for its time, no
8
doubt.
साल बाद, as my children remind me, 8 साल बाद start
But
किया होता.
directionally it was correct.
Directionally correct था, but 8 साल बाद.
That's why you got the exit, so someone saw value in it.
Yeah, but then the billions wouldn't have come to. So I told my daughter, because she said, then you would have been a billionaire. I said it wouldn't have changed my life. She's like, but it would have changed my life.
Her life for sure. It would have changed her life for sure if you had stuck to that game. So true, so true. So I wanted to kind of understand. So from a macro perspective, you are saying that IT related is still the way.
Digitization, Indian digitization. When I told you this consumer brand of WeGrow, we have a unique opportunity where जितने भी धंधे बनते थे ना, वो सब digitally बन सकते हैं. And digital businesses are inherently more scalable. So if the audience is thinking of digital businesses, I'm saying it's everywhere in every industry now. In fact, the best way to do a business is to take an existing industry and disrupt it digitally, like Ola, like Oyo, like a bunch of these guys. Right?
I think that's a beautiful insight. That look at all the business that already exist and see how you could bring a difference to that, and then you have a solution right there.
App-based hai, but grocery hai.
Yeah, I was just watching a program on CNBC Make It. I can't remember the name of the lady. And as recent as last year, a few years ago, she came up with a business to make sugar-free candy.
Yeah.
And she sold it at the age of 26 for 300 million.
Yeah.
Now that's a massive insight that she found that there's no sugar-free candy. Who would have thought of it? Candy is the most known industry. It's out there. Walmart has, in fact, Warren Buffett owns candies and made money for it from it for all his life.
Saying. Think about 1962 and 2012.
Yeah.
Same industry, or whenever this business was, I've also read about it, I forget the name also. 50 years later, somebody made the money in the same industry because they found a unique customer insight. Unique customer insight.
Unique customer insight, guys. So please pay attention to that. It doesn't matter if you're not a techie or if you're not a coder or the magic is in any sector in particular. Every sector is open. If the GDP is going to grow from 3.5 trillion to 10 trillion, you have to take a few multi-million out of that. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. You don't get the, everything correct. Yeah. But if you can find a real good problem that you can solve, there's enough room for everybody is the message.
And focus on your right to play and
That's
right to win in that, or build that.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, I must also focus on something. I must say that, you know, you would have made a hell of a professor. Because, you know, we're having this talk and it's so beautiful talking to you. I've learned a lot in this process.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy that so many more people can learn from this. And, you know, I have found that unique customer insights, in that sense, to become an entrepreneur, there are so many unique customer insights on this podcast from you that if I think somebody can form a fully formed idea out of whatever they are.
Well, I
working
hope,
on.
but Salil, I mean, I don't want to do a mutual admiration society, but the way you have done this and how you're picking up on every piece has been outstanding. So thank you.
Thank you. So, you know, there's another beautiful statement I've heard from you, and because, you know, we are friends and I've heard it from you before, so I have the, you know, liberty to go through with it, is, you know, I call it your takya kalam. PMF, scalable PMF, scalable profitable PMF.
Yeah.
And for everybody's attention, PMF is product market fit. It's that moment where you know that whatever business you thought of, that product is now got accepted and it's nice, right? And after that, then comes the question, how do I expand and make this a big business? And eventually, how do I make it profitable?
Yeah.
So what I would like to know is that when do you know? Everybody has a different sense of knowing my product is right. Many people think, no, my product is already correct. They're not. So when is the moment where you can really say that, yes, now I have product market fit? Does it end, or is it a continuous journey? And then after that, what are the ways to bring scale into that game? And some examples, maybe, if you have seen.
So I think this is very scientific. We actually have a podcast called The Hack Job, which kind of goes through each of these. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, but I hope that people think of it as a broken record and it registers. You know you have PMF when you have customer love. Simple.
Wow.
The customer could be anybody, customer could be a business, customer could be, that's when you know.
Correct.
How you measure it, whether you're measuring it intellectually honestly, is where people go wrong, right? I will have a different view of what is happening in the product in the market, and the founder will have a different view because they're not measuring it correctly.
Right.
But customer love is the indicator of PMF, it's testimonials. Now, how do you get from customer love to scalable? You need more and more of, you need two, it's very simple. Make your existing customers buy more and get new customers like them. तो इसका जो लूप है ना, वो उतना डिफिकल्ट नहीं है. वो लूप है कि इस कस्टमर को मैं कैसे सराउंड करूं with more products, which is what Country Delight has done beautifully. You will see it with some of our other businesses like One Card. For example, HDFC.
Of business.
HDFC is the best cross-selling machine out there. Bajaj Finance, best cross-selling. So it applies in every business, right? अपने कस्टमर को और बेचो. अगर आपके पास प्रोडक्ट्स नहीं और बेचने के लिए, तो वो वाले प्रोडक्ट्स बनाओ.
Land and expand.
Exactly. And that applies, that is an enterprise phrase, but exactly. But वो products बनाओ जो उनको चाहिए. But you already know the customer, it's so easy to get it from them. So that's one growth driver. Second growth driver is who are other customers like them. What have I learned about the customer set that loves me? There may be a customer set that doesn't love you. And you say, maybe I don't service them. Hardest calls for people to take. They don't take what in business, what not to do is often more important than what to do. Okay.
Could you please repeat that? That's beautiful.
What not to do. Don't do X, Y, Z. Because if you're trying to be everything to every people, you will be nothing to everybody, right? So that customer segmentation and then saying, I will get more customers like this, gets you from PMF to scalable PMF. स्केलेबल प्रॉफिटेबल पीएमएफ में वो तो स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट होना चाहिए. सलिल, वो मैंने पहले भी बोला था कि अगर आपने बिजनेस मॉडल ही ऐसे बनाया कि पीपल आर नॉट सीइंग वैल्यू, देन यू विल हैव scalable disaster PMF because these customers you are selling to more, you are losing more and more money. Now, how do you separate a loss-making business in the present with a loss-making business forever? It's called unit economics. So, for example, I may lose, and just to explain to people, unit kya hai? Unit hai customer, unit in a restaurant is their restaurant.
The product.
Unit in any business you can figure out around some parameter that is about. By the way, unit in Ola is cab also. Right?
Yeah.
So in
per
this
ride.
example, it could be right. So in this example, it could be, acha, customer has love, but I'm losing money. However, that customer is coming back to me in 3 to 4 months, and then I'm making money. We call it payback period.
Lifetime value.
नहीं, not yet lifetime value.
Sorry.
Payback period.
Okay.
मैंने ये invest किया, ये पैसा कब वापस आया? उसके बाद वो कितनी बार और आ रहे हैं is lifetime value.
Lifetime.
So it's not very hard. So what, because we do invest in loss-making businesses, we have to project future profitability. We use lifetime value, CAC, वो कर सकते हो. But for that, now let's say I meet an entrepreneur, business is looking very interesting. I ask them, what's your NPS, which is your customer, net promoter score. They don't know it. Let's say then the best way to measure repeats is something called cohorts. कि आपके ये 100
Now
customers.
this is getting complicated.
Yeah.
So if you can first unpack net promoter score.
Yeah.
I'm slightly aware of it, but I would love the viewers to understand
Yeah. So
how they should measure their own businesses.
yeah, I don't even think net promoter score is the best measure, but okay.
Okay.
So there are 3 levels of measures I look at in customer love. Number 1 is CSAT, which is customer satisfaction. The problem with customer satisfaction score, which is, and how it's measured is irrelevant, but was 60, 70, 80%, how many customers are happy, not happy. The problem with this is, वो तो unhappy हो गया, आप क्या करोगे? तो after the fact हो गया. तो वो
Postmortem.
गया, postmortem. Net promoter score is a little bit more of a measure of scalable PMF. Are you a promoter of the business? So that is measured with a higher bar. That on a scale of 10, above 8 is what is called a promoter. Below 4, I think, is called a detractor, और बीच वाले को ignore करते हैं. And you subtract promoter percentage minus detractor percentage.
Okay.
So this will sound a little bit, so think about it. Apple का कितना है? 70 plus है. Amazon का कितना है? 70 plus है. That means more than 80% are saying positive things and only less than 10%.
Wow.
Because जो negative बोलते हैं वो सब जगह जाके बोलते हैं.
Wow.
जो positive बोलते हैं वो कहीं नहीं बोलते.
So this is how NPS is looked at.
This is how
So
NPS
you-
is looked at. Most Indian businesses are negative to 20.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
This is where the obsession is not there. In a customer product, if you really ask me when I am thinking of more, there is something called a habit formation score. And the habit formation score, it's not very well covered. It's something we use internally. Is you ask the customer, if tomorrow this product wasn't there, would you miss it?
Okay.
And there, if it is above 40%, then you have a then you
It's
know
a home
that
run.
कि कोई भी निकल भी गया वो वापस आ जाता है. So I think there is science. The point is there is science to all this. It's not used enough. So coming to your points on cohorts, 100 customer आए हैं, 12 months out, in month 12 उस 100 में से कितने बचे?
Retention.
And let me give you retention, but in a very interesting way, and credit to Chakri on this of Country Delight. 5 year out customer retention was 40% always, 40-45%. 5 year out in that month, which means if you do nothing, उतने तो लोग आ रहे हैं. अब उसकी basket he has taken from 70% to 180%. So that means revenue retention
Right.
is now the multiplication of that to 80%. और उसको लेके जा रहे हैं 250%. So once he achieves that, if he did nothing, his business will not grow, but it will never shrink
Yeah.
because these customers are hooked.
Yeah, he's in the kitchen.
And then he'll be making a ton of money. So
Right.
ये सब building blocks for each of these phases. There's also a building block for the metrics and numbers. They apply across businesses, B2B businesses, B2C businesses. थोड़ी सी nuances होती हैं.
Very nice.
So,
You know, I have one more thing, if you could throw some light on, is that I have found a distinct difference, is that most of the businesses coming out of the valley,
yeah,
somehow the whole mindset and the way they look at things is that solving problems for the world.
yeah,
And I've seen less of that happen. Of course, Bhavish is doing
Yeah,
it. Many of
yeah,
your companies
yeah,
are doing
yeah.
it. They're solving it for the world.
Yeah.
But I'm saying it's not happening at scale.
Yeah.
Right? And what can be done in India, in our ecosystem, in the investor mindset or the investor group, or how can we encourage that
Yeah.
thought process? Because I think just a slight degree of help in that direction could change the trajectory of a nation.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
could you throw
No,
some
it's
light
a very
on how
good
that's
point,
possible?
and Bhavish has criticized me, and a part of it was self-serving for him because he wanted more money in all these innovative ventures. By the way, this founders fund, I think Peter Thiel ka fund, founders fund, he's made this statement that we venture capital was supposed to put people on the moon, some such quote, and maybe we can put it there.
Yeah.
And we ended up with 142 characters. So he was joking about Twitter and social media and all that, right? तो ये है. But मेरा इसमें थोड़ा सा contra point है. So What can we do? We have to put our money where our mouth is. So we are doing that. We are encouraging. Us and one or two other peer investors. We have gone to IIT Mumbai, IIT Madras. They have an amazing innovation center, and we have said we are here to invest. We have done that with IIT Mumbai, but IIT Chennai is actually the most cutting edge in some of this. They are doing the space stuff. So India se innovation aa rahi hai. There is this Agni-cooled rocket, which is a 3D printed rocket. It's the cheapest to launch, all of that. So it's a different innovation to what Elon Musk has done, right? And India mein ho sakta hai hamari innovation is type ki hoegi, that we will create products for not the developed world, but the rest of, like, what if we create products? No, what about if we create for Africa? Why not? Right? So हमारी innovation, हमारा right to play क्या है? हमारा right to play innovation, low cost, जुगाड़, So maybe I don't have the answer, but I will push back on one point, which is, see, in my view, people are not very different. Their economic status is different. Developed people are rich, so they have time to worry about things that we don't have time to worry about. It's Maslow's hierarchy. They are in self-actualization. We are at the bottom of the pyramid. तो हम लोग bottom की चीजें कर रहे हैं.
Fair point.
But ये change हो रहा है. ये change हो रहा है. There are enough people who within, because we are a country of 1.4 billion people, we are not homogeneous. So there are enough bhavishyas now coming out, and I do think, and it's a feedback I will take in this context, because it is something he has pushed me for almost a year. कि आप लोग सब ये क्या खुद का भी बोलता है, मेरी टैक्सी में इन्वेस्ट करो, ये बोलते कुछ डिसरप्टिव चीज़ों में इन्वेस्ट करो, right?
Wow.
And very tech first in that way. I do think it's the responsibility of the VCs to also kind of come out of this a little bit, think a little bit more Maslow's hierarchy, and say ki let's push.
Many of these interesting guys, I would love to have them as podcast speakers, because how much value that can add to the whole experience.
For sure.
It'd be excellent.
Super.
Because you did mention him a lot of times.
Because he's my inspiration.
He seems to be quite
I
a
mean,
guy.
actually a bunch of
even
these
the country delight guy and everybody, they'll have so much to give. They'll have so much to give.
This is, we'll probably end on this note, Salil. You get privilege sometimes in life. I tell people 2-3 points, and maybe we end with this. Country is going from 3.5 to 10 trillion. It is digitally led. A lot of people in the country talk about nation building. We are part of digital nation building. Absolutely. We have the ringside view. In 80s, if somebody said you can be, you can sit a day with Ambani, not Adani, he wasn't there as much at that time, but Birla, Mr. Tata, we would have paid money to go there. We are getting to be with them every day. 10, 20 years from now, people will look back and say, we were there when this happened, right?
So true.
So to me, I feel, and people ask me, ambition की क्या scale होनी चाहिए? I said, boss, जब country को ये करना है, तो ambition is your responsibility, not a choice. You better have ambition.
Wow.
You better go and disrupt, right? Or help this digital nation building. So, big believer in that, feel very privileged to be in the trenches. तभी तो when you were saying it decade long, मैं तो विकसित भारत सोच रहा हूँ 2047.
Absolutely. There's no way holding back. Any strong advice that you could give to the viewers directly on what you believe for some of them out there? They're at all levels, They could be in Bharat, they could be at all levels of the Maslow's hierarchy. So what is your advice to?
It's what I tell my son, and what we started off saying. Ambition. We are in a very, very privileged time and very lucky time where the GDP growth of India is coinciding with digitization of India. So the gap between India and Bharat is now bridged. So somebody in tier 6 city, I don't even know what they are called, or they have the same opportunity that people in Mumbai have. That is a very unique situation when the country is growing. I do think people should be thinking more entrepreneurship than investing. I tell my children, you must become entrepreneurs. It's almost your responsibility. We have always been a country of traders, entrepreneurs, whatever. It's all coming together. My only thing would be to think about yourself deeply and then find problems to solve, and don't go by trying to solve problems that can raise money from VCs. Try to solve problems that can raise money from customers.
So for all of those people out there who wish to be part of a community which is already thinking on these lines, Della's Leaders Club is a fantastic platform for you to be able to participate and be a part of it. It brings entrepreneurs who are already out there on a singular platform, and you're well aware of it. I I would love to hear what you think about such a platform where entrepreneurs come together.
No, it's unbelievable, and congratulations to the team as well as Jimmy. See, if you remember, 25 years back, actually 30 years back, one of our friends started a satellite channel. But 20 years back, a lot of India started changing because television reached everybody.
Correct.
I think this is the new medium, right? So if you want to reach, we earlier said India and Bharat have gotten converged, India is digital first, but वो सब तो words हैं, किसी को वो करना पड़ेगा. So I think you guys are doing this, and congratulations to the team, because this bridges that, and to me the impact of this medium is much more than what television created, because that was a push medium. It wasn't curated to what you want. This is curated to what you want.
Absolutely. No, and Jimmy Mistry is a very dynamic personality, and moment he saw this whole situation of if there could be a platform that entrepreneurs could thrive from, but which was gateless.
Yeah.
And
that's the
everybody was welcome, and everybody could grow from it. And I immediately attached myself as a mentor and advisor. And I love that mission that he's on.
And to me, it fits into this whole digital nation building, because it takes everybody, all of us have to come together for
Absolutely. So we wish them well. Thank you. On that note, I would like to say that, I mean, this has been a thrilling few hours that we've been together here, and I think there is so much to take home from here. I wish I had heard this when I was 18. I'm being very honest to you, and thank you for that. And your life and your entire body of work across can be so useful and so inspirational. I could not have wrapped it in this one episode, but I hope we can do many more on different aspects which can help people as well.
Super.
Thank you, Avnish, for being
thank
here.
you, Salil. It was an unbelievably flowing discussion.
Thank you. Same here.